Hey guys, it's OSK. Welcome to another coaching session. As you will notice here, I'm not reading anything off my computer this time for this intro, so it's going to be a little bit more organic for you. Just wanted to introduce you to the coaching series. This is number 3 in the series that I'm doing. We're going to be reviewing Kalnore today, a very prominent Pyromancer streamer, and also a very good player in general as far as skill goes as well. So we have a really good treat for you. Now, this coaching series, again, if you'd like to get a clip submitted, just make sure that it's 10 minutes or longer. There's 15 or more people in the player lobby, and you can do closed beta 2.0, 2.1, or even the current one of 2.2. And you can send me a link to the VOD either via Google Docs, through Discord DMs, Twitter DMs. You can send it to me through Facebook message, or not Facebook, YouTube message. I'll send me to Reddit. Pretty much anywhere you can send me DMs, just you can DM me that way. If you'd like to get a clip submitted. Now, this is a series for new players and veterans alike, and it's just aimed to get you a different perspective on the gameplay, and also if you're newer, to sort of help you improve at the game any way that you can. And I find it really helpful to review my own stuff, so I figure we might as well do it for other people too. So all the YouTube stuff, if you like the video, just make sure you like it, and I would really appreciate a subscribe if you'd like to see more of this coaching stuff. I already have 2 others, so you can check those out. And without further ado, here is Kalnore. All right, so you see Kalnore right here. He went ahead and dropped into the Bogmore area. You can see by all the fog, all the scenery around, and he's actually in the middle of a fight. Now, to preface this real quick, he's done a pet peeve of mine, and he apologized to me whenever he sent this video, but it's fine, okay? He is kind of solo duoing it. He's in a duo, but they're in vastly different places. So he's kind of on his own right here. I want to break down his talent. Kalnore, the most famous Pyromancer player. He's, of course, running the Pyromancer. And then we have his talents here. Classic build, recovery, fervor, and runic fluency, movement, cast speed, and a little bit of sustain. It's all good things. This is actually my preferred. This is my preferred method as well. So it's pretty nice. I'm going to keep that pin size. It's going to help us out a little bit. You can see 20 players in the lobby, about halfway full. Pretty typical of closed beta 2.2 at this time. Duo's pretty much just popping now off of the drop. You can see very serious face on him right here. He's ready to go, ready to have a good game of his. And he's yet to find a better fire, but he has the Toxic and he has the Shadow Step. So good source of movement. Already has a rune charge on it as well. And he's going to be looking to do some damage with that Dragon Fire build. So without further ado, let's press the good old play button. Now, I believe he's in the middle of a fight right here. Yep. Sorry for video quality. Right here, just right off the bat. First of all, I heard a little bit of Stone Shaper right there. You probably heard it early in the fight before this actual clip got in. But basically what he does here is he's in this little ravine. Now, I don't think that Stone Shaper can actually reach into the ravine, so he might be okay. But typically what you don't want to do is be in any kind of low ground on Stone Shaper. They can easily just hop right in right here. They could get up here and throw a boulder. They can do a lot of things. There's a lot of options for the Stone Shaper now that you are in the lower part of the ground. And also, it's harder to land your fireballs as well, which is the most important thing as a Pyromancer. You have that increased radius on combust, so you want to try to use it as much as possible. And that is best done whenever you are in a high ground situation. So yeah, he's just going to go ahead and float right here. Oh yeah, that's another thing. In this game in particular, I did take a quick glance through. There are a lot of server disconnects, and hopefully the servers are a little bit better by the time you're playing it. But just to give you kind of an idea of how to track whether the server goes down or not, you want to take a look and look at your rune cooldown. That's a little trick that I use. I'm sure that there's others. You can probably take a look at your sorceries as well. I'm about to find that out here in just a second, but I know for sure that you can take a look at your rune cooldown, and if the timer pauses, then you disconnected, and pretty much everyone's disconnected. So keep an eye on that. Right there, stays at 5, blinks to 12, stays at 12. He's still disconnected. And yes, the timer The zone timer right there is frozen, and also the sorceries are as well. So he goes back to the low ground. What can he do differently? He could, with the way he's positioned right here, he could try to land some cheeky fireballs from this position, and then he's going to move forward just a little bit. Let me erase that real quick. I'm still getting used to this pen tool, so I hope you forgive me. He's kind of in a tough spot right there. He doesn't have his Firefly. He doesn't have any runes anymore. What I would have done differently is, you know, he's down on the ground. I'm going to back up just a little bit. If he's up here, I wouldn't even drop down. I would honestly just follow. Now the guy's like right there or something. He's through the wall. I would just follow him this way. Just stay up on the high ground. It's the easiest thing to do. And you have pretty good sight of him. Unless he goes under the castle, which you can kind of chance it. If you know exactly where he is. But even then, there's viewpoints this way, there's viewpoints this way, in the lower part of that castle, right beneath him. And another thing to keep in mind is that he's at 50 health. He does have the recovery, but even with the recovery, you still only have at maximum like 2 stone shots before you're dead. So in order to eliminate the possibility of dying, you want to stay on as high ground as possible. And given that little fall down on the terrain right there might have been the result of the disconnect, plays the valley pretty well. The guy's trying to wind spam him, and wind spamming is very bad in this patch. Lands a nice falling fireball, and he's dead. That was a very good shot, too. I want to break down this shot. This is probably the most... I'm not nitpicking at all. I just want to point out something good. All right, so he's right here. Misses. Right there, okay? Right here. This is perfect. So you see by him winding up like that he's going to go down here. He can, to my knowledge, I'm not sure if he can levitate out of that. I'm pretty sure he can. He can animation cancel that. But typically, the way this guy's been fighting, he's been slamming the ground. You can just follow his trajectory. You can almost see it right here in his little trail. Almost makes a bell curve. He's going to land right about there. And that's exactly where you want to aim your fireball. Of course, getting the timing down and all that. Takes a little bit of practice, but that's the best way to do it. Lands it easily. Ignite. And another one pretty easily now that he's close range.
Is that back notification? Yeah, she is back. It seemed to be pretty good. It was just her, one of her
good stuff,
and her parents.
So at this point, he's just looting.
As things usually do when you're with family in close spaces for a while.
I'm gonna turn that down to about 63%. I love Kalnore to death, okay? I love him to death. I'm not here to hear him talk, okay? We're here to learn. We're here to get our game on, all right? He's going to go straight into the zone. Simple strategy. The zone's actually right there, so there's no rush. Whenever you have a zone like this, and whenever you have a zone like this, you know it's close, what you can do is quickly go in, and then if you think there are still people kind of outside the zone, quickly get your first skill point. Firefly is a pretty good one. It lets you travel a little bit, lets you have a little bit more maneuverability in fights. You can go ahead and just step in that first zone and then come right back out. That way you still have that first skill. Interesting little surprise that you can play on your opponents. Most people, when they're outside of the zone, are not going to expect you to have that first skill. So you can get a nice little trickery going. Now his duo partner is going to go down. Nothing new there. They all do. And pretty sure he's dead at this point. Yep, there he goes. For those of you that just joined in, he did apologize for abandoning his duo. He wanted to do some solo duos, so that's behind us. We're just critiquing his gameplay. And if anything, this is really going to show you guys how to carry a duo game. He's a solo gamer, does pretty well in the duo situation, so he's doing pretty good. Sees a mana vault to the left. Going to want to secure that as fast as possible. Now he passes up a dash. I know that there was recently a little rune tier list that just got brought out by Timmy and I think Zen and all that, and they actually rated Shadow Step and Dash both in S tier. And while I kind of agree, I don't agree with it on Pyromancer. I think Dash is a lot more moverability, and also the Shadow Step's not really as effective as far as a combat tool. You can see you can still see which direction you're shadow stepping in. You don't get any extra damage off of it like you would in a toxicologist build. And if you enter your flame wall, the firefly will actually cancel out the invis. So something to keep in mind. You get a little bit more distance when you pick dash. Sure, it does make it easier for your opponent to see where you're going.
Maybe the second.
But you also get more distance. So kind of a toss up. Do what you want to do. I always prefer dash if it's worth anything to you guys. Beautiful, finds a blue. Finds a nice little rare dash. Passes up the epic lightning. That's a good choice with this build. All right, almost passes up the mana vault. Careful there, buddy. You want to get that legendary loot. Always want to get that mana vault. Not only does it kind of ring the dinner bell, if you're confident in your abilities, you can secure a quick 2 kills with the duo going. And also, get you that legendary loot. It's exactly what you want. Now, the way he's playing it right here, if you wanted to be a little bit safer, he doesn't see anybody around, but let's say you see someone in the distance or you hear someone approaching, get in one of these windows right here. A lot harder to see. You can even get in this little doorway and you still hear the mana vault going. You can even get on top of the tower up there. That's more of a nitpicking thing. You can pretty much just do whatever you want in this situation. It's a very relaxed sort of stage right now. 15 people left, or 16 people left, 15 enemies left. So not too much pressure going on. Gets the epic fire, excellent grab. That's why you want to do mana vaults, because they actually have in my experience, they have a higher chance of dropping the gauntlet that you start with, which for some reason the RNG in this game really makes you want to pick up stuff you don't have already. Except for scrolls. That recently got changed, but I digress. All right, let's take a look at his gear. Okay, his sub is covering up his gear. I would assume that he still needs a good amulet, better belt, and a better boot. But as far as gauntlets and rune choice, he's pretty good. Oh, passes up the epic flight. I guess it's not. It's a good. It can be a good decision. It depends on what you're comfortable with at that point. Don't you pick up that invis. Don't do it. Okay, good boy. Good stuff. All right. I'm going to rewind real quick. This is so great. I actually have frame by frame in this video viewer. This new one that I'm using. So right here, I want to take a quick look at the zone. If you're an aggressive little breaker, you want to go to Fort Halcyon. Nice center-ish area of this circle. It's a pretty even circle too, so there's not really going to be any tendency for any players to go at any part of the circle. What we saw a few games, or one of my coaching sessions, was we had a zone that was kind of cut out like this, where there were little wedge sections. Typically, you see players flock to the wedge and then go in. It's not as big of a tendency in Spellbreak as it would be in a game like Fortnite or PUBG, but it's still something to keep in mind. They still have that habit. Newer players, at least. It's one of the reasons why I like this game, is that you can move so fast into the zone, it's almost a non-factor until the later part.
Oh, I could really use a dash and more scrolls.
Aha! A man after my own heart. He said he wanted a dash. That's what I'm talking about. Good. That's a good brain on you, Kalnore. Good stuff. It's exactly what I want to hear. You're making me so happy right now. Excellent. Reading up, getting talented. That's what I like. As you're going through the HoloLands, even if you have all the gear you want, if you're missing out on talents, just open up every chest you can. It might reveal that you've been in that area before, but you still want as many talents as you can get. Any sort of advantage you can get over your opponent is going to be, I'm not going to say huge, but it's still really good. Oh, good stuff. All the way on the runic fluency. Oh, he just saw a guy. I can see it through the lower resolution. I don't know if he saw that. Let me go back to this little part. Come on, Kalnore, let me see it. Okay, he heard fighting, which is why he put down the he heard some fighting, which is why he put down the firewall. That's good in case they have an ice. Very good. And then he sees people over by avant-garde. So he's kind of aware of where the people are at this point. Nice talent right there. Good stuff. Not the safest area if he knows there's fighting going on, but he sees a third-party situation. Now, methods of approach. He is doing the absolute right thing here. Let me turn down my music real quick. Turn it down just a little bit more so I can hear myself think a little bit. He does the absolute right thing. So instead of crossing this ravine straight ahead, first of all, there is a ravine right here. You definitely don't want to be on the lower part of that. And these guys are fighting on the castle wall. So if they spot you, they have instant high ground advantage. And if they have Pyromancer, if they have Toxicologist, if they have Stone Shaper, you're kind of in a bad situation. So definitely don't want to be there. His pathing is superb right here. If he does what I think he's going to do, he's going to go up here onto this little hill and then cross over. Try to get out of the sight. This guy's facing this way, and it looks like the fight's taking place in this area. So he wants to try to sneak around, get behind the guys as much as possible, and keep in mind that he is a solo in a duo situation. So there's something to keep in mind. He also sees people over here. So don't use any ability. Stay as sneaky as possible. Takes the fight. Oh, a little bit of a bad shadow step. That guy might get fractured. Yep, he does. Yes, it does. All right, good. He has a natural feel for high ground, which is what I really like. Kind of bad right there. I'm going to pause the fight real quick. I'm going to go back a little ways. Make sure that there's nothing that I missed. Let me go back down to 443.
Then I don't need the dash. It'd just be nice to have it.
All right. So he actually saw the fight going on up here. What you can do instead of pathing this way, this changes what I said earlier. You could just get up here. If you want to play it really safe, which is how I like to do it, again, my personal philosophy, take away any sort of mechanics, any sort of mechanical ability that you're going to need. Make it so unreliant on your mechanical abilities that that's easiest win you can get. That is my personal philosophy. Playing Spellbreak, and with newer players especially, it's going to help you out a lot. You can get up here on the high ground, eliminates the worry of fighting a Stone Shaper. Also gives you a little bit of high ground as well, so you can land that Combust off the Pyromancer classes, which is very nice. Pyromancer Combust is excellent. Could have pat to the right a little bit. He could even, instead of charging straight ahead to that flat ground, get on the higher ground to the right. Aiden, thanks for the follow, buddy. So when he falls into the fracture, the absolute worst thing you can do, instead of being a little timid with your levitate, what this player could do, he started here and just kind of floated down here. Just go straight across the ravine instead, or even loop around. Even if you're in a bad position, you're at least not dying to the fracture and giving OP another source of his content. All right, right here, he's kind of in a bad situation. Kind of let that player drag him out here. Something you don't want to do. What I would have done is follow this guy a little bit. You want to make sure you secure the kill, and then go the other way, because there's actually a ledge right here that Stone Shapers can't, that this hitbox can't travel down. By getting right here, I don't think that this ledge will stop the Stone Shaper. You can go over. You can get right here. If he's continuing to go this way, there's all this room over here. I'm just going to fill your screen with red. There's all this room over here where Stone Shapers can just absolutely annihilate you. Something to keep in mind there. All right, good. Paths the right way. Stays out of the middle of the fight and sees a guy potting up. That's exactly why you don't pot up in the middle of that fight. And I'm actually going to go off of coaching Kalnore for a second and coach this guy instead. Just because something I see, something that could help you out. In a fight in a game as chaotic as this, you don't know if someone's really coming up unless you have really good audio or really good awareness. Instead of potting in the middle of this open field where there is a stone shaper blasting his way, what you can do is get on this high ground, or better yet, even just run around, because you know that there's a little area back here that you can safely pot away from the action. You almost don't even want to have LOS with your... You don't want to have line of sight with your opponent even. You want to make it as hard for them to see you as possible. Instead, he panics, gets easily exiled by Kalnore. Right here, unfortunate that he didn't reach the ledge right there, but instead of... Oh, a little bit too far. Let me go 515. Instead of trying to shadow step to that far ground, I know he's W-keying this guy right here. He plays that exactly like a toxicologist would, which isn't the best for Pyromancer. Instead of doing that, he can actually, he knows this guy's exiled, he can actually just quickly go up here and then rain down the fireballs right here. You're probably not going to think about that in the moment, but this is why you review your videos if you really want to get better. You can think about, hey, what really contributed to this sticky situation? What can I do better? This is one thing you can do better, is just capitalize on that pathing that you have in front of you. And you can see he kind of panics a little bit and gets kind of ticked right there. Now, if that guy had a fire, he would take huge damage and be in a really bad situation. Other than that, what he does here, following through the valley... You don't want to follow him through the valley right there. So that was kind of unfortunate pathing. You want to do the same thing that he was doing. Ah. You can see that the servers just took another hit. Again, those of you that weren't here before, look at the sorcery number and the rune number. If they freeze up, or if this timer freezes up, then you know the game's frozen. Probably not something that's going to happen on release for you guys. Probably not something that's happening very much at all anymore on the servers from my experience. But if it does happen, look at those timers. If they freeze up, then you are frozen in time.
The server just totally fucked again. Wow.
There we go. All right, so this guy is going around. Yeah, playing around this freeze is kind of bad. He's kind of flustered by that entire thing. Uh-oh. That recovery is really paying dividends right now. This is why you run it on Pyromancer. It's a good job by Kalnore of kiting, and also a good talent selection. Good job getting behind any sort of cover he can get.
This guy's getting teabagged for sure.
So he's getting teabagged for sure. But this is why you don't run Vital Stone. What Vital Stone does is it just delays your death. That's pretty much it. There are infinitely better talents to run.
God, that's so annoying.
Oh, that dash, beautiful. I love seeing the dash on Pyromancer. Now, he doesn't see anybody left, but you know that there's a person on the other side of this high ground where my mouse is.
I'm not.
So the person that he didn't quite finish off, I'm pretty sure, because of the freeze. I might be wrong about that. I'm pretty sure he didn't finish him off. So just be careful about that.
I'm starting a new schedule.
He's got a pretty good hiding place right here. Attracts the loot. Beautiful trap. That's a little cheese you can do if you're up against newer players who don't quite know what's going on or don't quite have the awareness.
Can't reliably.
Stay right behind the cover. They see the loot. They come right up. Easy DF for like half their health. Beautiful stuff. Good job staying high ground. Gonna use the Firefly to get even higher. Good stuff. Got on the wall too. Oh, that is beautiful stuff. Absolutely beautiful. Good. Thinks he's going to go for the res. Absolutely eliminate that option. His opponent's on half health. Keeps the high ground. Oh, it's beautiful stuff. I love to see it. Dashes in for the cleanup.
There we go.
Oh, so beautiful. So beautiful. That's the kind of gameplay I love to watch. Kind of stuff I love to cast too.
Since they do the tournaments in the mornings,
Good. I just want to review right here. Puts down the firewall. He has pyrolysis. This is one of the the few times that Pyrolysis and Firefly will actually work in the same situation. When this guy is backing away, you can put this down to get the Ignite off and then just fly in. You could face check him in, or the better option, which is what Kalnore does, he takes it all the way up to that little castle wall. Just putting on a clinic of absolutely optimal Pyromancer gameplay. Turns around, doesn't fully use his levitate, make sure he has some attack power back. And important to note, he saw this guy earlier up on the ledge over here. This guy kind of flew over here. He focuses the guy down first, and that's exactly what you want to do. In a lot of games, especially this one, even if the guy's on low health, doesn't mean he's doing any lower of damage. So definitely take out one half of the team's damage, one at a time, and go right back. Excellent choice. Now, if you're a Pyromancer, it really doesn't matter what sort of choice of damage you use right here. I'm going to get back to that point real quick. Need to review my timestamps. Good Ignite. Excellent. Oh, this is actually better than I initially thought. So he puts down the Ignite, and he might not even realize he's doing this, but he puts down the Ignite, which is going to get that armor ticking, and then he puts down the Toxic Slap, which is going to corrode the rest of his shield. So his Ignite for the 2 ticks has a chance to actually tick the health even beyond that. Now what he could do right here is he could just use his Fireball twice, but he does a pretty interesting thing right there. Just wanted to point that out. Unfortunately didn't get any health ticks out of that, but interesting idea. Maybe something to keep in mind for later. Now as far as right here, he knows not to chase into the low ground. And it's an easy cleanup with these combustion sort of shots right there. Excellent stuff. If you want to get better at Pyromancer, Kalnore is the guy to watch. He hasn't been live on Twitch in just a little bit, but he can really teach you some stuff. Tell all my friends, if you want to learn something about Pyromancer, you go to Kalnore. Even before me, you go to Kalnore. All right, he's reading his chat. I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit.
I didn't see the list of like confirmed entries.
All right, so zone's not closing just yet. He doesn't have conflagration just yet, which is one of the worst skills in the game, but he will here pretty soon. Sees an exiled guy and just going to go ahead and get some splash damage. And sees a low guy there. Easily done. That's one of the situations where you know the guy's low if he's separated from the fight pretty much. Let me get back to that little area. He actually leads this off pretty well too.
Perfect. Oh shit, there they are.
All right, so he sees the fight right here. All right. So what this guy does right here is he's kind of backing off, keeping his eye towards there. What Kalnore does is the most optimal thing you can do in the situation. He's got the Pyrolysis on hand with the Firewall, and he's just going to tick it down. It's a lot easier to hit than a Fireball would. Lot less chance of missing, and lots of damage to boot with the Ignite. And you can actually double up the Ignite with another Fireball, and that's exactly what he does. 12 per second. Another Ignite, and then one more to go. It's one of those things where you almost don't even need positioning. You already got the drop on the guy, just ignite him to death. Finds a nice little hiding spot. And he's also just exiled. So there's 3 enemies left. He's got to be very careful here. Good, circles back around to the high ground. Now this is one of those unfortunate situations where duos is a thing. Oh, excellent on the Firefly there. Uses it again, too. Now, that is the wrong direction to use. Unfortunately, his opponent is using lightning. So that's going to put him in kind of a pickle. He's playing it pretty well, keeping his vertical mobility. His vertical mobility as varied as possible. And with him being on the low ground right there, it actually favors him just a little bit. Hopefully my video didn't freeze up again. Let me review that first little part one more time. All right, so he goes into the high ground to heal up, which is fine. It's up against a pretty good duo as well. One thing to keep in mind, use this as a general rule. Whenever you're in the late game, this applies to pretty much any battle royale in general. The later game where there's fewer people, you expect a higher skill level. Especially in this game, we have people that have been playing for months. Even if you're like me, been playing for over a year. So just keep in mind that these players are going to be a lot better. You have to use a lot more better tactics. So keep that mentality up. Gets on the wall. That's good. He's on equal footing, not the worst place in the world. Now he opts for the lower ground to kind of chase him, but he needs to keep in mind that there's another person in this duo. He's trying to focus him down as quickly as possible. You want to try to keep as much high ground as possible. It goes right back, too. He realizes his mistake. And because he has to dash back up, his opponent right here can kind of predict where he wants to go because he made that mistake and lands a nice little shot on him. And he's already down to almost no shields. So positioning is key, especially if you're 1v2ing right here. Gets on low ground again. Going to Firefly up. Good. Wants to go to that tower. But instead opts to dip back down. He wants to focus down this guy. He's really tunnel visioning on this guy. He has good positioning if he wants to do that. Just because these little wooden pillars are going to block the lightning. I'm not sure if that was the right decision. With 1v2, it's kind of difficult with 1v2 just to begin with. But what he can do... Let me go back to the point. No, a little bit before that. Let me go to this point right here. All right. Realizes a mistake. Goes up. We already know he gets damaged. Yeah, unfortunate. Lands a nice ignite tick, though. He flies up. What he needs to do, instead of going back down, he knows that he's getting damaged pretty heavily. But you have to realize that as a Pyromancer, you have the ignite, you're going to have a lot more damage than this guy is with his lightning alone. You want to force him to make a play. You're already in kind of a bad situation. Your health is low. It's 83 HP. These players, they're a duo, and they're probably pretty good, as we mentioned earlier. So you're kind of in a bad situation either way you go. What you need to prioritize is some kind of high ground, because if you can get this guy to hop off of this tower, it's the only way you're going to win this. Or you're just mechanically superior, but it doesn't happen very often. You can either make this guy move, because you have the superior damage, you have an epic fire, you have fervor as well, which gives you that extra cast speed. You need to be chunking this guy down. If you don't chunk that guy down, he's going to stay up here like he does the whole rest of the fight. He's going to be using his conduit powers, just missing wherever he wants, and then when he hits you for 20 damage. So you need to keep that in mind. You need to really take advantage of this little tower spot right here. And even if this isn't high enough for you, you have another little piece up here. So prioritizing, this is where it's kind of tricky. Prioritizing getting this guy as low as possible. Just, it's one of those things. You got to realize that these guys are a little bit more skilled. He's probably going to have some good movement options. You're not going to kill him as fast as W King. And that's another thing I want to point out as well. Whenever you're playing, you want to keep an eye on this kill feed. It's a little bit blurred out right now. But if you can recognize some names, maybe you've been in the Discord before, maybe you realize, hey, there are some names that I know are pretty good. They've been in element scrims, they've been in tournaments, they typically do okay or pretty well in that competitive environment. If you recognize those names, you have to realize what you're up against. And this is why you always want to glance up here every now and again just to see if they die. If they don't die, then you need to be mentally prepared for what can really happen. And what happens here, this guy has good movement. Ma, I think it is. He ends up exiling him or disrupting him at least. But Ma, we already know has good movement in general. So it's going to, at the very least, it's going to take Kalnore just a hot second to kill him. So instead, what he needs to do is realize this guy is conduit. He's going to be good at long range, bad at close range. Take his spot up here and just chunk him down. It's the only way you win that. Instead, what he opts to do, chunks him once, Fireflies in, wants to finish off Ma. As we mentioned, Ma's good at movement, and he's also firing back. He can't kill him very quickly. So what that gives the guy up on high ground some advantage to chunk him down a little bit. Yeah, he's sweating a little bit. That's fine. Interesting to note here. This is normally something you don't want to do, but in this case, it actually benefits him. You can sometimes get these conduits to sort of miss by aiming for the high ground. And if you can see this little field above you and nothing on the grass below you, that you know that you're in a good height situation to where this lightning bolt that strikes down is going to hit this wall and not you. So he realizes that and is safe to go ahead and keep potting. So good awareness there. Unfortunately, lightning has that line of sight advantage. I'm going to have to skip this part because it's freezing up on me. My apologies. You can see what he's doing, though. He's basically just dashing out of the way.
Oh, shit. There they are.
Oh, it skipped back to 8 minutes for some reason. We go to 9:16. Skipping back for some reason. This must be corrupted in some way. I can pretty much tell you the result, though. If I need to. Okay, it's going to go to 9:14 for me. New software, guys. My apologies. I don't know if it's going to get the end part of that. If you want to know the end result, my apologies for the video mess up on my video player. Basically, his other player, I think it's Bastion, chunks him down. And he also gets third-partied by that last guy that's alive. Keep in mind that was the last duo, and there's 3 enemies total. So he ends up getting chunked down and gets third-partied as well. So anyway, could have played that a little bit better. Kind of a tough situation. Always pick a good duo partner. And off a drop if you can help it. Try to stay with the guy. If nothing else, he's a meat shield, and he has a left mouse button so he can at least distract them. Okay, so with that, I'm pretty sure that ends that first little coaching session. So if you guys in the chat have any questions, feel free to go ahead and ask.